You don't lose to others. You lose to the comparison you've made up in your head, and every time you look away, you forget what you should be building. This phrase is like a punch in the gut, because the truth is that it's almost always not the lives of others that paralyze us, but the distorted lens through which we view ourselves. Have you ever noticed that every time you open social media, the algorithm seems to shove a parade of achievements, trips, perfect bodies, and lives that look like movies in your face? But while you swipe your finger across the screen, your own life is paused. It's in this moment that comparison acts like a silent thief, stealing your energy, your motivation, and most importantly, your clarity of purpose. With each glance away, you abandon a brick that could be building the building of your own story. It's as if you're entering a race you shouldn't even be running because the track was never yours, yet you insist on measuring your time by someone else's stopwatch. And the result is always the same: frustration, anxiety, and the feeling of being behind, when in reality you just forgot to look ahead. And look, I'm going to tell you something that might hurt, but needs to be said. No one cares about your comparisons, because while you spend time eating yourself up inside, others are preoccupied with living their lives. It's hard, I know, but this is the reality that many people don't have the courage to face. And that's why I want you to comment on the word comparison down here. If you've ever felt that blockage, that tightness in your chest from looking too much at other people's gardens and forgetting to water your own. This word will be our code for courage, because only those who admit they've fallen into the comparison trap are ready to break out of it. And I don't want you to just watch this video as another passing rant. I want you to see yourself within this provocation, to feel each sentence as a direct challenge to you, because there's no room for pretense here. Either you face the truth or you continue living in the shadow of expectations that were never yours. And I bet if you've made it this far, it's because you've already realized that living hostage to comparison doesn't work. So stay with me, because this journey isn't about others. It's not about the perfect life you think exists out there. It's about building, with firmness and clarity, your own narrative, your own strength. And at this beginning, my invitation is simple but powerful. Write comparison in the comments, not as a confession of weakness, but as a sign that you are willing to transform this poison into fuel for your evolution. Because it is from this first step of awareness that we begin to turn the table, not against others, but against the illusion we create within our own minds. You see other people's stage lives and forget the behind-the-scenes moments they hide. This is the essence of the invisible trap that imprisons so many people today. Social media is like carefully lit shop windows, where each person only posts what they want to show. It's as if each photo is a filter not only of image, but of reality. No one posts their failure, their doubt, their identity crisis at 3 a.m., but everyone displays the rehearsed smile, the trip paid in 10 installments, the achievement that took years to happen but seems to have come out of nowhere. And when you, on the other side of the screen, compare your real life with someone else's edited life, the result can only be unfair. It's as if you were measuring the behind-the-scenes moments filled with effort, fatigue, and failures against the final scene of a finished film. But this comparison isn't neutral. It corrodes. It makes you believe you're behind, that you're not enough, that you need to run faster without even knowing where you're running to. It's like a glass prison. You see everything. You think you could be there, but at the same time you feel like you're never there. And it's at this point that the poison of comparison begins to seep in, transforming the network that should connect into a silent battlefield. And I want you to be honest now. Have you ever fallen into this poison? Have you ever felt the weight of looking at someone else's stage and forgetting about your own backstage? If so, comment on the word trap down here, because this will be our pact of sincerity, the mark of those who recognize the dirty game that happens before our eyes every day. The problem is that this trap isn't obvious, and that's precisely why it's so dangerous. No one wakes up in the morning saying, "Today I'm going to compare myself to strangers and feel worse about myself." It happens almost automatically, like an invisible habit. One swipe on your feed and, without realizing it, you're already questioning your choices, doubting your journey, and measuring your happiness against the standards of others. External standards act like magnets. You see an ideal body and think yours is worthless. You see a brilliant career and believe you're stagnant. You see a perfect relationship and think your love isn't worth that much. But the truth almost no one talks about is that these standards aren't real. They're carefully chosen fragments, masked, filtered, packaged to seem unattainable. But since no one shows you the flaws, you start to believe you're the only one with them. This is the cruelest trick, transforming the normal into the invisible and the artificial into the benchmark. That's why so many lie exhausted, trying to chase a goal that doesn't exist. And when you get into this cycle, you lose the ability to see the value of what you've already built, because there's always someone who seems to have more. But what you don't see is what's behind the scenes, the debts behind the new car, the fights behind the romantic photo, the insecurity behind the toned body. And when you understand this, you begin to free yourself. But first, you need to face the truth. You've already fallen into this trap, so write "trap" here in the comments, because admitting it is the first step to dismantling this silent poison. The cruelest thing about this invisible trap is that it redefines your measure of success without you even realizing it. You start measuring yourself by standards that were never yours, and the more you try to fit in, the further away you feel from yourself. It's like running on a treadmill. You get tired, sweat, expend energy, but you stay in the same place because the race was never yours to begin with. And here comes a point I need to hammer home. Life isn't about beating others, it's about beating yourself. But as long as you're stuck in this comparison, you'll never see your own evolution. You'll always feel small compared to the fabricated greatness of others. That's why this video exists, to tear away the masks of illusion and remind you that what's behind the scenes matters more than what's on stage. That your journey, with its flaws and stumbles, is still more real and more valuable than any perfect photo that appears on your feed. But I can only show you the way out if you're willing to acknowledge that you've entered this prison. So comment now, trap, because this comment isn't just engagement, it's a commitment to yourself, to never again fall into this poison without realizing it. And from this moment on, every time you write this word, it will serve as a reminder that you've already understood the game and that you're ready to break the cycle. Because in the end, comparison only has power over those who don't recognize they're being deceived. Every time you compare yourself, you steal energy that should be used for growth. It's as if you're filling up other people's tanks while leaving your own on reserve. Constant comparison not only sabotages your self-esteem, but also creates a feeling of inadequacy that silently builds. You begin to believe that you're never enough, that something is always missing, that there's a version of you that should be perfect and hasn't yet arrived. But this unattainable standard doesn't exist in real life. It's an illusion fueled by everything you see around you. The apparent success of others, the seemingly perfect bodies, the achievements displayed like trophies. And as you watch this, your own confidence drains away, like water from a leaky bucket. This invisible drain is cruel because you stop believing in your ability to act, to build, to evolve. It's as if the simple act of comparing yourself is a silent thief that steals your strength without asking permission. And it's at this point that I want to challenge you. How many times have you stopped trying something because you thought you weren't as good as someone else? How many opportunities have you let pass you by because your mind convinced you that you had no chance? If this has happened to you, write the word now. Self-esteem here in the comments, because this word will be a collective cry from those who recognize the weight of this poison. Comparison not only undermines your confidence, but also generates paralyzing anxiety. You start living in a rush, always trying to reach a goal you don't know where it came from, always feeling like you're behind in a race that never really started. This is why so many people today live suffocated, with their minds full of racing thoughts, feeling like they're chasing something they can never achieve. This constant state of alert, tension, and pressure is fertile ground for anxiety to grow and take over. Every time you open social media and see someone seemingly achieving more, your mind races, "I should be there too." This pressure not only generates stress, but also blocks your ability to think clearly, to plan, to take consistent steps. You become trapped in a vicious cycle. You compare yourself, feel inferior, become anxious, don't act. And by not acting, you further reinforce the idea that you're behind. It's a cycle that repeats itself endlessly, and if you're unaware of it, you spend years spinning your wheels. Comparison creates a mental prison where you are both jailer and prisoner. And I want you to understand this clearly. Every time you fall into this trap, you are giving up your freedom in exchange for an illusion. If you've ever felt this anxiety gnawing at you, or felt your chest tighten from looking too closely at what others are doing, he comments. Self-esteem, because this comment is your declaration that you will no longer accept living suffocated by standards that are not yours. And perhaps the highest price of comparison is the blockage of action. Have you ever noticed how constant comparison makes you feel stuck, unable to move forward? It's as if every time an idea, a plan, a dream emerges, your mind immediately pulls out the ruler of others to measure its worth. And almost always, the result is that you convince yourself you're not good enough, you're not ready, it won't work. This blockage is devastating because it prevents you from experimenting, learning, making mistakes, improving. And life only happens in movement. Those who get stuck in comparison never get to test their true potential because they give up before they begin. It's like a light bulb that has power but never turns on. The irony is that while you're stuck, others keep acting, often with less preparation, less talent, and fewer resources than you. Except the difference is that they started and you didn't. And when you understand this, you realize that comparison is the enemy of action because it paralyzes, freezes, and makes you hide. And I want you to make a pact with yourself right now. Write the word self-esteem in the comments as a commitment that you will no longer allow others' rules to determine whether you should act or not. Because your evolution depends on this, on stopping looking to the side and starting to put your energy where it really matters, in the next step of your own journey. Those who believe themselves to be greater are mistaken. Those who believe themselves to be lesser are trapped. There is only one measure, you versus who you were yesterday. This is the essence of the lie of superiority and inferiority, two sides of the same poisonous coin that comparison creates. When you look at someone and believe you are lesser, you place yourself in a prison of self-devaluation, living in fear of not being enough, always with your head down, always believing that other people's platforms are more important than yours. But when you look at someone and believe you are greater, you fall into another illusion just as destructive, that of arrogance. You inflate yourself, creating a bubble of superiority that prevents you from learning, that blinds you to the fact that there is always something new to build, always room to evolve. Do you see how both positions are traps? In one, you diminish yourself and stall. In the other, you magnify yourself and lose yourself. In both cases, you are measuring your life with a ruler that should never have existed. And here I want to really challenge you. How many times have you felt crushed by believing you weren't as good as someone else? And how many times have you fooled yourself into thinking you were above others, only for life to show you that the fall would be hard? If you believe that the only valid comparison is with yourself, comment true down here, because this word will be the symbol of those who no longer accept living in illusions. This lie is sneaky because it feeds on the ego. When you feel inferior, it's your ego telling you that you need external validation to feel valuable. When you feel superior, it's the same ego trying to convince you that you've already reached the top and don't need to move any further. But in both scenarios, you lose touch with reality. The truth is, there will always be someone more experienced, richer, better looking, or smarter in some way, and there will also always be someone just starting out, someone still learning. The problem is that this vertical comparison never ends, because there will always be extremes to lean on. It's like climbing an endless ladder. If you look up, you feel small. If you look down, you feel gigantic. But on neither side do you find peace, because the focus is always outside of you. And it's precisely this distraction that steals your energy, your authenticity, and your power of action. The only point that truly matters on this infinite ladder is the rung you're on now, and the only comparison that makes sense is between the you of today and the you of yesterday. It is this perspective that generates real progress, because it is based on personal evolution, not external illusion. That is why I emphasize comments true. If you recognize that this race against others is just a trick of the ego, and that the only opponent worth facing is the one you see in the mirror. When you understand that superiority and inferiority are shams, you begin to free yourself from the burden of comparison. Because in the end, feeling inferior only creates pain, and feeling superior only creates blindness. Both distance you from true humility, the recognition that you still have much to learn, but that you've also come a long way. Healthy comparison is one that serves as a mirror for your own progress. It doesn't matter if someone achieved something in less time or on a greater scale. It matters if you are more aware, stronger, more disciplined today than you were yesterday. That's the real game. And this game is honest, because there's no illusion, no makeup, no stage. There's only you and your evolution. That's where true self-esteem lies, because you no longer depend on measuring your life by anyone else's yardstick. You understand that you don't need to be greater or lesser, just better than you were. And that's why I challenge you now. If this message resonated with you, write "true" in the comments, because this comment is proof that you will no longer fall into the trap of illusory comparison. You will choose, from today onwards, to play the only game worth playing, the game of surpassing yourself. While you watch others race, you forget to run your own. This is the harsh truth that few have the courage to face. When you spend too much time observing others' pace, their speed, you inevitably lose clarity about what really matters, your own path. It's like a runner who, instead of keeping their eyes on the track ahead, keeps craning their neck to see where others are. The result? They lose their balance, stumble, and often don't even realize they've stopped moving forward due to distraction. And this is exactly what happens when you put too much energy into looking outside. You start living in comparison, lose connection with your goals, and let your priorities slip through your fingers. Every minute spent observing others' path is a minute that could have been invested in building your own. This loss of focus is more destructive than it seems, because it not only steals your time, but also your mental clarity, your motivation, and even your self-esteem. You start to believe you need to imitate others' pace instead of discovering your own. And I want you to think now, how many times have you stopped taking action because you were hypnotized by other people's lives? How many times have you fallen behind in your journey because you were too busy watching the progress of someone who doesn't even look at you? If this has happened to you, comment on the word focus below, because this comment is the first sign that you are willing to take back control of your race. The effect of lost focus doesn't appear all at once. It builds up in small, almost imperceptible doses. You look at an achievement here, compare a result there, and before you know it, your mind is more occupied with evaluating others than with planning your own next steps. This constant distraction creates a fog that obscures your goals, as if your life map were blurred with every swipe on social media. And the worst part is, you don't even realize how much it costs you. Every unnecessary comparison drains your energy, steals your attention, and derails your discipline. It's as if your brain is programmed to waste fuel on a road that leads nowhere. Lost focus is treacherous because it gives you the feeling of being busy, when in reality you're just consuming the energy that should be used to build. You feel tired, but you haven't produced anything. You feel full of information, but devoid of clarity. You feel pressured to run faster, but you don't even know which direction. This is the silent poison of external distraction. It gives you the illusion of movement while keeping you stationary. And if you've ever experienced this scenario, you felt like you were going around in circles, he comments. Focus, because only by recognizing this pattern can you begin to break it. And here's the bottom line. Losing focus is losing your life, because life is made up of what you place your attention on. Where your focus is, there's your energy. Where your energy is, there's your progress. If you spend too much time looking outward, you hand over control of your growth to others. It's as if you're living according to someone else's race, always expecting to measure yourself by steps that aren't yours. The road back begins when you decide you'll no longer waste energy on distractions that don't belong to you. When you understand that every second you spend looking outward is a second stolen from building what truly matters. Your life, your dreams, your discipline, your evolution. And I want this moment to be a turning point. If you know you need to turn your attention to your path, comment on the word focus right now. This comment isn't just engagement, it's a public declaration that you'll no longer get lost looking around. It'll put your attention where it belongs, on the next step of your own journey. Because in the end, it doesn't matter who ran faster or slower. What matters is whether you crossed the finish line of what truly makes sense to you. The only real thermometer is, are you better off than you were yesterday? This question is simple yet powerful, and it can completely change the way you view your life. Because in the end, it doesn't matter what your neighbor achieved, what a stranger posted online, or what society says success is. What really matters is whether you're taking consistent steps on your own journey. The antidote to comparison isn't running faster than others, but learning to measure your progress by what you've built. It's looking back and realizing that even if the progress was small, it was still progress. It's understanding that small daily victories, when accumulated, completely transform your story. But the problem is that many overlook these small gains because they're too busy looking at other people's gigantic achievements. They forget that no one builds a castle without laying one brick at a time. So, I want you to look within and ask yourself this question right now. What have I achieved since yesterday? What small step did I take in the right direction? If you are committed to looking at your evolution instead of getting stuck in the illusion of comparison, comment on the word progress down here. This will be our sign of commitment to the only comparison that really matters, you against your own yesterday self. Celebrating small victories isn't childish. It's emotional intelligence, because every achievement, no matter how small, is proof that you're not standing still. You don't need to wait until you reach the top of the mountain to celebrate. You need to learn to appreciate each step taken. The problem is that most people only applaud the end result, forgetting that greatness lies in the process. When you recognize your own progress, your mind understands that you're on the right path, and this feeling fuels you to keep going. Otherwise, you'll always feel indebted, as if nothing is enough, even when you've already made great strides. The lack of celebration is what kills motivation for so many. So start creating a ritual to recognize your victories, whether it's writing them down, saying thank you out loud, or simply stopping for a moment and saying, I did it. This strengthens your self-esteem and creates a mindset of abundance, because you begin to see progress where before you only saw lack. It's like watering a plant. Every drop counts. If you've already understood that you need to celebrate each step climbed, Not just the arrival comment now, progress, because this word will be the reminder that your journey doesn't have to be perfect, it has to be continuous. And here's the big turning point. When you start measuring your life by your own progress, you free yourself from the burden of comparison and enter a cycle of true growth. Because in this game, there's no such thing as losing. Even when you make mistakes, you're still learning. Even when you're slow, you're still moving forward. Personal progress is the antidote because it puts the focus back where it should be, on you. It doesn't depend on what others do, what the world expects, or what the algorithm shows. It depends solely on your ability to observe, challenge, and overcome yourself. It's at this point that you understand that discipline is worth more than haste, and that consistency trumps fleeting intensity. Because life isn't about running 100 meters faster than others. It's about enduring the marathon of your own self-construction. So I want you to make this pact now. Commit to your daily progress, celebrate your small victories, and let their accumulation show you how far you can go. If this message resonated with you, comment progress, because this comment is more than engagement. It's a public commitment that you will no longer measure yourself by others' standards. You will choose, starting today, to play the most honest and liberating game there is. The game of being better than who you were yesterday. Unnecessary comparisons are silent thieves. They don't arrive loudly, but little by little they steal your clarity, your energy, your self-esteem, and the most valuable thing of all, your time. While you're too busy looking outward, you miss the chance to build what truly matters within yourself. Comparison creates an invisible hole that saps motivation, making you believe you're behind, when in fact you're just looking at the wrong clock. It's like running on a treadmill. You get tired, your mind wears out, but you don't move forward because your energy is being drained by constantly looking at other people's lives. But there is a way out. You can stop now, take a deep breath, and choose a new path. Measure yourself only by your own journey. This decision is more powerful than it seems, because the moment you shift the focus from comparison to your own evolution, you regain the freedom to live according to who you are, not what others are trying to show you. If this message has already started to stir something within you, comment below. Freedom, because that is the key word to mark the break with the unnecessary weight of comparisons. And understand this. No one wins this game of comparison, because there will always be someone faster, richer, better looking, or seemingly happier. This race is rigged from the start because it has no finish line. The only game that makes sense is one in which you compete only against your own yesterday self. This is the honest game, the real game, the game that brings peace. When you choose to measure yourself by your own evolution, you not only free yourself from external pressure, but also find an internal fuel that never runs out. Every small victory becomes a celebration. Every stumble becomes a learning experience. And every step, no matter how small, becomes proof that you are moving forward. And that's what destroys the poison of comparison, realizing that your life doesn't need to follow anyone's pace, but your own. So, if this reflection resonated with you and if you understood that true victory is the freedom to be who you are, comment freedom right now, because every comment is a public commitment that you will no longer live chained to illusions. So, I want to close this video with a provocation and an invitation. The provocation is simple. How long will you allow comparisons to steal your peace? And the invitation is even more direct. Choose freedom now. If you felt this message spoke to you, don't keep it to yourself. Leave a like to let me know this content resonated. Share it with someone who needs to hear it today. And comment freedom below. Because this comment isn't just about engagement, it's a declaration of independence. It's you saying to yourself, I choose to live without being tied to comparisons. This is your chance to show, not just to the world, but to yourself, that your life will no longer be guided by others' yardstick. The yardstick is your journey. Progress is your criterion, and freedom is your destiny. So be part of this community that grows not through comparison, but through commitment to your own evolution. And remember, the greatest victory you can achieve is living true to yourself.